We're live, everybody. Okay, so I'm only 5 minutes late. That's not so bad when you work in Atlanta and sometimes you got to deal with the Atlanta traffic. Probably should have Googled how I get home, but of course I didn't. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another lovely edition of the Archer Football Podcast, College Edition. It's me, Sonia. You've got my friend Michelle to my this side. Yes. Hey, Michelle.
Hey, what's
How
up?
are
Hey,
you?
everybody.
Hi, everyone. If you guys are watching over on Twitter, Facebook, wonderful. But come on over to YouTube so you can interact with us and we can put your comments on blast for everyone so that we can talk about it. So let's get into it. This week in college football was exciting, but kind of not really. I don't think I've seen this many teams score over 60 points in a long time. Now, granted, it was like week one was welcome back football. And this week everybody scheduled their cupcakes, if you will, except for Florida. Sorry. I didn't mean to say that out loud. But no, lots of teams were blowing people out. Alabama, they lost to Florida State, but they kept both Florida State and Alabama scored over 70 points in their games this weekend. So it's just kind of interesting weekend, I think. I don't know. What did you think about the weekend, Michelle?
I think it was a typical early two weekends. I think the best games, or at least the best games that I saw, was the Clemson and Troy game. Um, Actually, I think Troy let that game slip away. They had the win, and then they just let it slip away and started making mistakes near the end. And that got Clemson over the edge, but it didn't help with the posters because they dropped them a tremendous amount in the
Yes.
polls after that after that win, even though they won. And then the Iowa and Iowa State game was a pretty good game. Um, that's a right. They had the one thing I've noticed about these first 2 weeks is the rival games that's played so early in the
Hmm.
season, and that was one of them. And I think we mentioned that last week, the Iowa and Iowa State game being a rival game. And then Baylor and SMU was probably the best of them all. That went into two overtimes. Two overtime game. SMU gave it away. They had the game won. It was similar to the Buffalo Ravens game. Like, it's no way SMU should have lost that game, and it went into double
Right?
overtime. And I'm like, wow. So yeah, those were the bright spots from what I saw this past weekend.
You didn't think Michigan, Oklahoma was a bright spot?
Um, I It wasn't as entertaining as the three that I mentioned. It
Yeah,
wasn't
you're
as
right.
entertaining as that. But it was that was a big game. That was probably, if we before the games were played, that obviously was the biggest game of the weekend. I think we pointed that one out. Michigan and Oklahoma, and Michigan actually dropped quite a bit in the polls.
Did.
They
They
dropped
dropped
8 spots
time.
in the AP poll and 9 spots in the coaches poll. So big loss for them, tough loss for them. We'll see how they're able to come back from that. But good win for Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was a very good win for them. I think they looked very polished. I think they looked great, and it's always hard to win in Norman, Oklahoma. Norman,
Yeah,
Oklahoma. Yeah.
yeah.
But no, they were a complete team. Michigan definitely was not. But their quarterback was excellent. 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 He's good. Now, I know it's early, but I'm keeping my eyes on him. Just, the Heisman thing, because they love quarterbacks.
They love quarterbacks, which is
They
why we
do love
won
them some
Travis
quarterbacks.
last year.
Exactly. Travis was the anomaly. But yes, I think they love them some quarterbacks. He could be a very good one to keep your eye on in terms of Heisman Trophy watch. What is this, Big Red? Did I see the video of the student section during South Carolina's rain delay? No, what did they do? Did they do something fun?
I
I hope
missed
they did
that.
something fun. Huh? Did you miss
I
that too?
No, I missed that. I don't know what happened during the rain delay, but there were quite a few rain delays
Yes, there
all
were.
weekend with all of the sports teams. The weather, especially down on the East Coast, so we had quite a bit of bad weather. But I missed that.
We did not actually have bad weather here in Georgia per
Hmm.
se, but yeah, I saw that there were a lot of rain delays and stuff throughout the country. So
Yeah,
something
Florida was
interesting.
hit pretty good, pretty big.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lenora Sellers for Heisman. Sure, why not? Add it to the list. It's anybody's trophy now,
It's
right, Big Red?
anybody's trophy. It's anybody's trophy. It's so early, and I hate to start talking about the Heisman. I mean, I need to get at least 3 games in, and I need to see them play some. See them
Oh
play
yeah,
somebody. So yeah.
of course. Oh, see the students. Oh, you were even there, Big Red, and jamming in the student section while you ran for good. Well, that's college right there. They're supposed to be having a great time, and then yes, of course, you run for cover. That's what you do.
That's what separates college from the pros is the student section. We live for the student section. That's the
But
best
guess
place to be.
what? I think so. I now my child is in Death Valley, the LSU Death Valley, not the Clemson Death Valley. Would love it. I would go over there to the student section. She'd probably like, Mom, really? Be like, what? It's over there.
I
No,
always bought tickets in the student section. Like I said, it's the best section to be in
mhm,
because they
it's
stay
so much
hype.
fun.
Hmm.
They stay hype, and I love that. I love that for them. Um, what else happened this weekend? Grambling came north and took on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Of course, that was another one of those 70 plus wins. But I think that it was just nice to see them shine on a national stage. Yes, they had their butts handed to them, but again, just nice to know that they came there to play and to get just some eyes on them because there's always talent everywhere, and if you can find it, you've got it. Grambling, Big Ten, wherever, if you got it, flaunt it. So that was another game.
South Carolina State hung in there a little bit with South Carolina. I know, Big Red's talking about the student section, but South Carolina State actually, um, I think they were close. At least in the first half or first quarter, they hung in there a little bit. So
Yes. Exactly. That was a good game too to kind of keep an eye on. Clemson is overhyped. This is Big Red. They're gonna have at least 3 losses by the end of the year. Okay, they already have one, LSU. Georgia Tech and FS. Really? Really? Who does Florida? Okay, okay. I'll give you that they're a little bit overhyped. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs this year. A bowl game, yes. Playoffs, no. I don't think they're gonna lose to Georgia Tech. Could I be wrong?
who are we talking about? Clemson. Clemson is
Clemson.
lucky to get away with that win against Troy. This will be a big game for them. Um, this Georgia Tech game. Georgia Tech did beat Colorado, and
They
Clemson
did.
again. Clemson is probably where they are because it's Clemson, and they're going to give Dabo the benefit of the doubt, like they do Alabama in the beginning, because they want those teams to be there, but they haven't
Mm-hmm.
proven yet that they deserve to be there. And I think both Clemson and Alabama have big games coming up. They're big because of the way they've played the first two. That's it's not a big game on paper, but it's a big game for them because
True.
this game right here, these games coming up will probably break their seasons right here. It's gonna decide. It's gonna move them for sure. Alabama probably won't drop that far, but Clemson they'll drop them.
Oh, for sure. I'll agree. I will agree. So yeah, so Clemson takes on Georgia Tech and at Georgia Tech. So I think this is a definite prove it game to them. And yeah, definite prove it game. So this early for Clemson. Wisconsin takes on Alabama, or Alabama takes on Wisconsin. Now I think that one is going to be very interesting.
Right.
Um I think that one's going to be more interesting than Clemson Georgia Tech, honestly.
Well, I mean, I think Alabama's in the same situation that Clemson is in. They look awful their first game of the season, and so now they have another opportunity to look awful when they come and play this Wisconsin game. But we don't know, and we don't know what this post Nick Saban era is yet, and we're still trying to figure it out. But this game right here is going to tell us a little bit as to where they're going this season. They have already dropped to fallen or at number 19 now. So a loss here can put them out of the 25, but I doubt they would put them out because it's Alabama, but they would probably deserve it. So yeah, that's why I say these two games for both of them are big games. Not if you're just looking at it and you want to, it's a game
Right.
watch, but for those two programs, I think it's a big game for them. Um, so, but there are
I'll
other
agree.
big games this week. Um,
Yeah.
of course, my Hurricanes are playing South Florida at this weekend, and South Florida's already beaten the Gators, and I'm sure they're licking their chops because these are bragging rights for the Florida teams. If
Oh,
South
for
Florida
sure.
can beat Miami and the Gators, and they're not on those levels, so those are big bragging rights for them, and so Miami has to come ready to play. They to their benefit, they have like the first 5 or 6 games at home, the Hurricanes. So this is their
Oh, I was about to
opportunity.
say Miami does. Oh, that's
Yeah,
super
they have
nice.
like they'll be home again, and they played the first two already. So I think that's a big game for both teams. For
Mhm.
South Florida to make a statement. If South Florida beats uh, Florida and Miami, they may get some points to get up into the top 25.
I think they might. I
Yeah.
think that they will have. I think they might. Now, speaking of Florida, they do go to LSU this weekend. I think that'll be an interesting game too, and kind of another prove it game for Florida.
Yeah, I
Not
think. Yep. Yep. Georgia and Tennessee, those are the early games. I think Miami and South Florida, Georgia and Tennessee, the early games, but that Florida LSU and also ATM, Texas A&M, is playing Notre Dame. So big game for Notre Dame as well.
I think so. I think that's a huge game for Notre Dame. And again, another like prove it. You got to prove it. And speaking of prove it, who does Penn State have? Oh, they have Villanova.
Penn State doesn't really have anybody, but I'm liking the game that Big Red mentioned for South Carolina, that Vanderbilt game. Vanderbilt's one of those teams like you don't know, they upset. They'll always make a few upsets during the
Hmm.
season. They don't go anywhere, but they make it difficult for the other teams, So yeah, but yeah, that's probably a big game. That's gonna be a good game, I think. Actually, all those SEC games are pretty much usually good because that conference, they battle so hard. They sort of like the NFC East, how we just beat up on each other. We all hate each other,
Yes.
and no matter what our records are, we can all be 8-8, but we're gonna fight with each other, and we're gonna do that.
All
So,
gonna,
and
yes.
that's like the yeah,
I'll agree 100% completely. I never thought of it that way, but yeah, you're right. They are like the NFC East. They go at it.
yeah.
Or the AFC North. AFC North goes at it
The
too. I don't
AFC
think
North.
as
Go ahead.
they do. They get after it. I don't think it's not as hard as the NFC East, but the AFC North, I think they're right there. Could A&M versus Notre Dame? Yes, I think that could be a very good game because Notre Dame has to prove it. Notre Dame has to prove it. I think they're like another one of those teams that they are always in the mix, but they're never able to like take that next step. And they haven't been able to do that. They've gotten close, but they haven't been able to do that. So I think in order to prove themselves, they need to win this game and win it handily.
And Notre Dame is also one of those teams that they're always ranked or they're always somewhere, and everybody's like, but why is Notre Dame there? Why is Notre Dame there? And then they
Yes.
end up in the college football final. That's that team. So you never know, but they've only played one game so far this season. So I think them having that bye week already, they that week off, they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game against Texas A&M. So I think that's a big game for them.
Agreed.
They can't fall out. They don't want to drop down too far as an independent. Because again, they don't have a championship game or any of that stuff. So, and this is an SEC opponent. So you know how the voters are about SEC teams. If
They
you beat
love
them,
them some SEC
yeah,
boy.
it gets a star on your resume. So
Mm-hmm. Are they even ranked? They're not ranked.
Notre
Am I
Dame's
missing
number eight.
something?
Are you still Texas A&M? I believe.
Oh wait, yes, there
Yeah,
they are. I'm sorry. It was a
mhm.
long day, y'all. Okay, there they are.
Yeah.
The ATM,
Texas
yeah,
A&M is
16.
like in the top 25, like 16 in the
Hmm.
AP poll.
Yep, there they are. I think that could be a good game. Houston versus Colorado, playing in Houston. Big Red's all over it tonight. Playing in Houston could make it. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. But Dion always has his team ready to go, and I think that they lost a close. They were interesting in Georgia Tech. That was an interesting team.
Well, the thing for Colorado is which quarterback is Dion's going to start. He says he knows where he's going. He's just not telling us. He said that in the press conference. But Salter may be the guy this time. Who knows? He looked pretty good in their last game. So he played both quarterbacks, but I think he's going to settle on one of them, and we're going to find out when they line up against Houston.
Yep, exactly. That's usually how it goes, but it'll be a fun one to watch. And then let's see who else. And those are all the good games. No real big shakeups, I think, in the rankings this week. Um, I'm trying to see who besides Michigan had like a big fall.
So
Nobody really.
the biggest drops, Arizona State dropped like 14 spots in the poll, and but Notre Michigan dropped eight spots in the AP poll, nine in the coaches poll, and Tennessee, I'm sorry, and yeah, those were the two biggest drops in the polls, and Clemson dropped four spots um,
Yes,
after a
yes.
win. So everybody else dropped after a loss, but Clemson dropped four spots after a win in the AP poll and three in the coaches poll. And the biggest gains, the teams with the biggest gains, Oklahoma went up 8 spots after beating Michigan, and we
Yep.
talked about that. And Florida State and Tennessee went up like 7 spots. Both of them went up. So um,
It's good. It's good to watch. Florida State, who do they have this week? I know last week they
Florida
kind of
State,
had
Florida State, Florida State. Woo. So yeah, Florida State.
Florida.
The AP poll likes Florida State just a little bit better than the coaches do. They're playing Kent State, so they'll have an easy game this weekend after
Oh no,
playing.
they've got a bye this week. Florida State has a bye because they don't
Well,
play
yeah, they'll
Penn State until the 20th.
okay. Kent State will be their next opponent. So that'll give them a little breather until they start getting into ACC play. Because once
Yes,
September is over, you start getting into the meat
your
of your
conference
schedule.
play.
So yep. Hmm.
Pitt versus yes, West Virginia. It is a forgotten rivalry game. Rivalry game. Okay, yes,
Which
I can get
which
that out.
team is that?
Pitt versus West Virginia. That's a
Oh yeah,
forgotten rivalry game.
yeah,
Yeah.
them old Big East teams. I
Exactly.
still call them Big East, Big Red. I don't
I
know
do
what
too.
conference. I can't keep up with the conferences, but they always be Big East teams to me.
Big East teams to me, yes, and those were good with oh gosh, I always think of when was it Rich Rod? Yeah, when Rich Rod coached West Virginia, all those good things. That was a minute ago. I know I'm old. It's okay. You can say that. Who are on Michigan and Miami's slate? So Michigan has Central Michigan, I do believe, this weekend. Asks Kristen. Let me double check. And I think that yes, we play Central Michigan at home. I
Hmm.
think the thing about that game is that um their coach Sharon Moore is serving the first of a 2-game suspension for whatever they're calling it now, scandal gate, Connor gate, I don't know. But yes, serving suspension for that. This is our first game. Biff Poggi, I think, is going to be our coach. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. People were kind of disappointed in the game, obviously, from Saturday. I was mostly disappointed in the line play at that game, but I think I don't know, I don't want to say they held their own because they didn't, but I think they made some good plays. Bryce Underwood will get there. I mean, this is his second game. He was facing a very good quarterback. So I think they're pump our brakes,
Yeah.
people. I think we'll be okay. And
It's
then,
early. It's early. The good thing
very
is they
early,
have a little time. We've added some more teams to the playoffs, so everybody has a little more time to get themselves together.
right?
They
It's
can
gonna be
lose a
fine.
game
And
and
then,
still make it.
fine,
Mike
be
can lose
okay,
2 games and still make it.
right? And then Miami has South Florida, the same South Florida that just beat Florida.
Right.
So that will be a very good game to watch, I think, because South Florida's coming in there fired up and ready to go. And the Hurricanes, I think they'll be just as ready. So it's gonna be a good game. Talk about your rivalries.
Yeah, let's talk about Bill Belichick and his debut and his the way things are going for him right now in college football. I don't
Hmm.
know if he's handling things well. He's making decisions that affect student athletes. It's different than pros.
Yeah.
And, this media thing and not allowing the scouts to come in, and that doesn't help his players, and that's who they're there for. So if they can't come in to scout the players, you know that's an issue.
Right.
But he has more important things, and that means winning. So the question is can they beat the people that are on their schedule? And the way they looked last week, I'm not sure. But I think this first year, Big Red Bill is there to sell tickets, and he's doing that. And so they had
Agreed.
a huge crowd. I mean, like I couldn't even I didn't know. I forgot where they were. I'm like, this is North Carolina. Look at all of these people for football.
Look
This
at
is
all the
not
people
even a
that came out.
basketball game. But yeah, he'll keep the stadium going unless he loses this game to Richmond, and they'll probably walk away.
Right, but you think of somebody like, for instance, Darth Harbaugh when he came to Michigan, like he really did use his NFL connections to try and help get some of these kids, drafted and, yeah, come on and look and see and all that other good stuff. And you don't really see that, at least at this particular moment, out of Bill Belichick in UNC. And so I think maybe he's got something else up his sleeve because you never truly know, but I think it would behoove him, good word there, um, to lean into that, I think, to kind of tap into that. And, maybe he just really doesn't realize who his audience is with college kids. And I'll hold off there about a joke about his girlfriend because that's not nice.
I saw her on the sideline. Looked like they said she was getting money for the concession stand, but I'm not the one to gossip.
God,
So you didn't hear that from me. So
no, that cracked me up pretty hard. But I think that he just needs to kind of embrace where he is and the differences between that, and maybe talking to somebody like a Jim Harbaugh, like a Pete Carroll, and getting to know like the nuances and things like that, and things that he has to adapt to. But you're right.
that's not Bill. He's holding on to things that he has to let go right now. This
Right.
is not it's not just about you. There are kids here who go to college to get professional jobs, and for his players, their professional job is making it to the NFL. And
Yeah.
so, if you don't allow the scouts to come in, then that affects them. But I think there are other things. More importantly, right now is they have to start putting some winning product on the field, and they may not be ready this year. Um,
Right.
and they're hoping that he'll get it together, because if he doesn't, then the administration has less. Then they don't allow such things to happen as often as they would when you're not winning. You know,
Hmm.
when you're winning, you can almost do anything, but when you're not winning,
Literally.
you know, their patience grows thin. So we'll see what happens.
Exactly.
And
Can
yeah,
a 70-plus-year-old coach really relate to 18, 21-year-old kids? Again, we're going to hold off on the joke because there's a joke there.
one
But
who's coached 6 Super Bowls can't. However many they won, seven, however many Super Bowls they
yeah,
won, that person can.
exactly.
For a
But
little while. Just,
exactly for a little while.
yeah.
But I mean, I'd love to hear him say Riz in a press conference. That's all I have to say.
Well, and I was already waiting to see his first press conference because his NFL press conferences was very entertaining to me because he didn't say anything. So I always
Right.
cracked up. And I'm like, I wonder if he's gonna be the same way when he gets to college, or is he gonna, open up and do a little bit more? Because, the demands are a little different in college as they are in pros, and your media interactions and all those things like that, because you are an ambassador for the sport. You have to sell, and you're marketing, and they're using you for those type of things in college, whereas pros is totally different. Those teams, they
Exactly.
don't need them for that.
Yes. He's got it. He's got the Riz. I'm telling you. um, he needs to bring yes, the cut off powder blue hoodie. That's what he needs to do. He needs to come out just like that. He needs to come out like that meme where he came out in Detroit that one time, just like, grr. But uh, this year he's there to get the money, get the people in the seats. And then I think he's got a grace year. And then we'll see where we're going after this. If there's improvement, I think if there's improvement, I think he'll be back. Let's see. Who's okay, so they
But
got
I will
Richmond.
say, when Mike Brown came into North Carolina, they immediately got better. They immediately got better.
True. True, true, true. But yeah, what was their record last year? Hang on. Let me see. We need a stat person. UNC football schedule. How'd they finish? 13th in the ACC, but it doesn't say. How'd they
They,
finish, you guys?
they weren't
Okay,
that
anyway,
good last year.
they were not that good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Run to Syracuse. Yep, that's all he's gonna say. I am totally waiting for him to say that on the press in the presser, and you know that people are waiting for him to say that too. They are chomping at the bit, Big Red. They are. It's gonna be an interesting season for our friends at UNC, the Tar Heels in North Carolina. Well, friends, it's about 8:30. We've been here about 30 minutes, I think. I think this week we will end now. Kate's on vacation. She will be back next weekend or next week. And then we will kind of take a peek and see who did what and who actually might be on some of our early, early Heisman lists. I think that'll be very good. Too bad they don't play the Cincinnati Bearcats this year. Why not?
Yep. We'll
Am I missing
announce
that one?
our early picks, our early favorites for the Heisman Trophy,
Yes.
and
I think y'all should too. You guys bring a
yep,
couple people for the comments so that we can yay or nay because I love our comment section. Y'all guys have some great comments and smart people. I love it. I love it. So yeah, we will see you all next week, next Wednesday. And yeah, go sports, go college.
go college. I'm
Go
ready. I
college.
got my TVs already. Let's go.
I bet you do. All right, y'all. Talk to you next week. Bye.